This episode of Dispatches from Planet Albany is brought to you with support by New York State United Teachers, which represents more than 600,000 educators and school-related professionals in New York. Dispatches is also supported by the public affairs firm O'Donnell and Associates. For more information, check out o'donnellsolutions.com.
So we have cuddle time every day. So today my husband had to go to work early. So he had to be at work at like 6. And he was like, all right, I'm leaving. And me and Bitey had like 2 hours cuddle time.
I've also declared war on potholes. So here's the first shot across the bow.
Well, as you know, with Planet Albany, there's always something that makes the planet turn.
And it's this amazing view of D.C., and Eddie Vedder comes out. And he goes, you have a cigarette? And I've never smoked in my life, but if I had, I wish that was the moment.
And this strategy takes us from potholes to knotholes.
I would like to say it was a pleasure, Mr. Kim. But I'm on the road.
I'm David Lombardo, and this is Dispatches from Planet Albany, a podcast about power and policy in state government. And on this episode, we're exploring the internal fallout from Senate Deputy Majority Leader Mike Gianaris announcing in February that he will not seek re-election. The news sets up a variety of moving parts for the Senate Dems, as well as on the government side and campaign side. To understand what life without Gianaris might look like, as well as what his role has been by the side of Senate Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins for a decade and a half, we're joined by Shontell Plummer, who, long before becoming a partner with Tusk Strategies, was on the Senate floor with Gianaris before rising to be the top staffer for the Senate Dems, so there is no better person to consider what he has meant and what his loss will mean. Thanks for making the time, Shontell.
Thank you. I don't like the wording that you use, the internal fallout.
Doesn't
As
have
a
to be
result.
negative.
Well, if I saw the internal fallout, I would assume that was a negative connotation.
Ramifications?
Okay,
Okay.
yes. Okay, thank you.
Well, before we get into the
Yes, baby.
ramifications,
That's right.
well, this isn't actually what you think it's going to be. I want to start with something you posted on Instagram this week, which is that the first thing you wake up to is your dog's face.
Oh,
We are not a pet in the bedroom couple. In fact, we keep our cat on an entire different floor of the house when we sleep because otherwise he'd be clawing at our
so
door in
are
the
we.
morning.
So are we.
Well, that's what my question was. How does that happen? How does Bitey get into your bedroom? Is this a fun gift your husband leaves you when he wakes up in the morning or something else?
So when I met my husband said, there will be no dogs in my bed because beds are made to sleep and do other things. So I was like, well, that's my son. He has to sleep in my bed. And my husband said, no, we're going to crate him. Now, Bitey, his whole life has lived a good life. He has never been crated before, like has never been crated. And we crate trained him to sleep in his crate at night. And actually, he actually goes in his crate whenever the environment is allowed, as you would know, during the
Sure.
Christmas party, he retreated to his crate. But it's a safe space. So my husband wakes up before me. My husband wakes up earlier in the morning. So my husband gets up, he gets ready for work, and then he will be like, babe, I'm leaving. He'll go into Bitey has, of course, his own bedroom. He'll go in Bitey's bedroom. He'll let Bitey out. Bitey goes downstairs. He uses the bathroom. My husband lets him back in, cleans him up. And then, like, I always hear Bitey. You'll hear him run up the stairs as quickly as he can. And then he jumps in the bed. And then we go back to sleep and we cuddle.
Well,
Let's go to what we should be talking about.
I'm going to guess this is
Let's get to what we should be talking about.
the random assortment of LG contenders you threw out there recently, one of which was
Assortment. Was
one of them was
anybody
Adrian
else
Adams.
mentioning Lieutenant Governor Adrian Adams? But
Not
this,
on our show.
thank you. So, like, don't say like, oh, this random assortment. I actually said I heard Adrian. I did say I heard the Lieutenant Governor, well, not Lieutenant Governor,
Candidate.
Lieutenant Governor candidate Adrian Adams. I said I heard it, and I said it'd break my heart, but this is what I heard because I do believe the world is sexist and racist. And but now, actually, this week I'm like, fight the power, all women, let's go, women's like homeboy. Current Lieutenant Governor Delgado, he said sayonara, which we all knew he was going to say sayonara. He did it a little quicker than I expected, but I think once he saw the AOC and the New York City mayor and other progressives endorse the governor,
Or
there really is
WFP
a
sitting on
backlash.
their hands.
I mean,
I think that was what was the final straw for him.
I
I think
can't.
he needed that
I just like
infrastructure.
I'm like I don't understand. I want to know the inner workings of WFP. You should have WFP come in and explain why they decided to do it.
If
Because
you'd
it's
like to put in the good word with your friend Jasmine Gripper, we have a pending interview request. We'll see what ends up happening.
oh really? I'll text her and be like, Jasmine, David and I want to know. Like, you see, you guys, even though you all think I'm a corporate elitist, I talk to all types of people. Like Jasmine, I've known Jasmine for over a decade, so. I will reach out and be like, the people want explanation because I wonder if they knew that their lack of an endorsement would lead to this action by Delgado.
I have to imagine he framed that in pretty
I
stark contest to
Any
them.
consultant would tell him, "Oh, you're preparing for this, forum. You need to say like if you want any type of traction on the left outside of like, the current governor, this is my lifeline, and if you kill it, there's not gonna." It's interesting because if I'm WFP. Wouldn't I have wanted Delgado, at least until the budget, to be that thorn for the governor to push my agenda and make possibly the governor feel threatened or feeling like she has to go more left? I want to be clear. The governor was going to do what she thought was right, I think, no matter what. But I do think it's like there's a little bit less, like everyone can breathe, like everyone can just chill out.
Well, what if the governor had said, "You want to support Delgado? Fine, I won't run on your line in the general."
I don't know if she would have done that. I don't know. Like, I mean,
That would be the death knell for the party.
it would have been the death nail for the party. Maybe her consultants told her that. I don't know if that would have been the approach. Because it would have been, I don't think it would have been a suicide approach, but I just think that if you cave to that, then you cave to any governor moving forward
Sure.
that's going to threaten not to be on your line. So then, like, you're basically beholden to whoever's in power.
Well, I've heard from a
That's
lot
the
of
purpose,
people on the far left who are very, very angry at WFP for not weighing in on Delgado's behalf. And I almost wonder whether this is going to be more problematic for them than the year they had that big split with Cuomo that resulted in a lot of labor interest polling their support for WFP. I'm not certain it will be as big a deal, but it's definitely a problem.
Let's say your scenario is correct, where the governor was like, buck up, kiddos. Like either you're with me or you're not with me, and I'm not running on your line. And then they were like, oh, we just won't endorse. I don't know. I feel like you make yourself beholden to whoever's in power. And the purpose of these third party, lines is to really show independence from the mainstream lines, isn't it?
I was going to say just to amplify those main party lines come general
I don't
election
think
day.
I don't think it's to amplify. I
No.
think WFP like it believes in, democratic principles, but they also believe in their own shit that's separate and apart from what mainline Democrats want. So I do think that's not why we're here
No.
today.
Well, let's turn to the big topic of the day, Senate Deputy Majority Leader Mike Gianaris. And I want to start with the side of things where you think he has been more influential. Is it the political side of things or the government side of things?
I think both.
But you got to pick one. And we
No,
can
I
get to
don't.
both. Okay. Well, let's start then on the government side of things. What has been his role by Andre Stewart Cousins' side? What does it mean to be the leader's number two on the government side?
I mean, I think the leader and Michael Gianaris, I mean, Deputy Leader Gianaris have a great relationship. So, like, as deputy, your job is to be like her confidant. She's telling you things, you know, I think the leader is politically astute, but Gianaris is like in the school of operations and like campaigns and like I like to say I'm in the streets, but he's in the streets. Remember, in 2018, before like DSA and, before like true like left, lefty, leftism was a thing, he picked that up before anybody picked that
Yeah,
up.
he felt the
He was
winds.
like, he's like a Mayorkie when there's a tree on the ground. Like he sniffed it out. And you remember everybody thought he was crazy because like when Crowley versus AOC, like he played it very cool and like he saw where the tides were going. And I think that's kind of like what his job is as deputy leader. I think it's to obviously run the floor, which there are so many things. what people forget, like Gianaris became deputy in, I think it was 2012. No, 2004. You people, I mean, you, the listeners, as your mother says, let me educate the youth. In 9 and 10, basically, I love that David Lombardo's family loves me, but anyways, in 9 and 10, we were dysfunctional. The Democrats won, and some people take offense when people say dysfunctional, but they won the majority for the first time. Malcolm Smith was the majority leader, and who was it? Jeff Kline was the deputy
Hmm.
leader. A lot of drama. There's a coup. People should listen to your whatever part series podcast on the coup. And basically, for a month, government shut down in New York State because the Republicans had two tricky Democrats that flipped sides to give them a numerical majority because the majority was 32-30. The Democrats during that period were just so dysfunctional. Like we were just like a walking, talking. It was like, ugh, we stink. It was just bad. And we lost the majority, which I think respectfully so. Okay, we lost the majority in 2010. Gianaris he was an assemblyman prior to that in the assembly. George Honorano retired and Gianaris took his seat. And I think once we lost, they announced Gianaris was DSCC chair before we even like started session.
Hmm.
Because if you listen to Jeff Kline, that was one of the things that prompted him to form the IDC and go with the Republicans. So we were in the minority from 2012 to 2018. And I can't remember when he became deputy leader. I think he became deputy leader when the majority leader became leader. Because prior to that, it was John Sampson and Neil Breslin. And I remember because I was floor counsel and I had to do the floor with Neil Breslin for like a period. Are you Googling this?
I'm Googling stuff, but I'm trying to type with one hand while also hold my mic.
Okay. So then I think I want to say it was like I became counsel, I think 2014. I think after the 2012 election, the leader became leader 2013. And when she became leader, it was the leader and then Mike Gianaris as deputy. And that's when they had DSCC and deputy leader become one because Gianaris was already existing DSCC chair.
Wikipedia checks that out.
I'm rarely wrong. Once in a while, you get me on some wrong stuff, but like I'm rarely wrong, especially about Senate stuff because
Mhm.
like I lived it. And Gianaris like helped the leader bring the Democrats to a stable conference. So he's a trusted confidant in terms of like dealing with members, knowing what's going on with the members, then also on the outside, knowing what's going on with like, the trends in the state politically, especially from an electoral like standpoint. He was a prolific fundraiser. I mean, before he even came to the Senate, I think he had like a war chest of like 2 million or $1 million for a statewide race because prior to us winning the majority, people thought he was actually going to be attorney general.
That's what he's always been eyeballing.
Yeah, he's always been
Multiple
able,
efforts
yeah.
to run for that. An aborted effort in 2018 when Tish James basically announced that she wanted to run. That's, I think, what the eye on the prize has been. And I want to talk about, that role and maybe how it's the lack of it opening up might have influenced this decision. But from a government perspective, does he have to play like good cop to Andrea's bad cop on the government side at all? I was curious what his role would be in terms of
Well,
like,
the leader is beloved, first of all, so very
sure.
rarely is she the bad cop. I mean, like when she fights with people, she's just like, I mean, I don't want to say fight because there's always a negative connotation when women disagree with people, but like she fights. Like she's just like, I've been in leader meetings when she's looked at Cuomo in his face and has said X, Y, and Z. So I think Gianaris, I don't think he's the bad cop.
Not with members, not telling them you can't get this, you can't get this, or you're going to have to do this bill versus that bill. That's not him. That's Andrea or somebody else.
Well, when I was there, the good news came from the leader. Bad news always came from me. That's why all the members hated me because it'd be like, oh, we can't do this. But no, I think since I left, and actually, Gianaris would actually just be a voice. So if like, staff would say, hey, there's an issue with this bill, da, 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 da. And I'd be like, we can't do this bill. Well, why can't we? And the leader would be like, yeah, why can't we? And then they would figure out like outcomes for a lot of legislation. A lot of times the leader of like, you give a recommendation of no. She was like, why? They're very hard to work for because it's like, you can't, most chief of staffs walk in and be like, no, we're not doing this. why aren't we doing this? Well, this member is going to want this. So, like politically, what can we do to help them? What are the other options? If we do this, who's going to be mad? Who's going to be happy? Like he was part, we have a core four. I'm not going to say who the core four were, but like he was the core four that really just like sat down, strategized from the minority to the majority. And like he was and still is an instrumental part of the stability of the Senate Democrats. I mean, the leader obviously is the overarching, she is the crux of everything, but he was her number two. And a lot of times when you have number twos, there's always that person like lurking behind, like trying to get in your position. Like, there's always some hater in your shoulder, like that wants your position.
Like a Delgado?
I'm not going to say that, but maybe if you want to say that. He wasn't like that with the leader. It was really a friendship and a respect. And he helped her see things that she couldn't see. She gave him a perspective sometimes he didn't see. And they really worked well together.
Some challenges need someone who simply won't quit. Modern advocacy brings tenacity, strategy, and unwavering follow-through to every client it serves. Learn more at modernadvocacyllc.com. You mentioned this. You shared the floor with him. What was his leadership style like on the floor? I mean, we see some of it in terms of his public remarks, but there are probably a lot of private remarks. There's times he's picking up that phone. There's times he's whispering to counsel. So
Oh
what was he
man.
like on running the floor?
Gianaris is hard. What people don't know, like Session's pretty boring to watch now. But from like 2009 to like 2018,
Sure.
it was always popping because it was constant this fight between the Senate Democrats, the IDC, the Republic. There was a bubbling tension whenever you went on the floor. We would try to do things to disrupt their flow. They would try to do stuff to disrupt us. It was all just insane. And especially in 2009 and 10, it was really important that the floor leader or the person knew how to fight and like push back against the Republicans because the Republicans for years had been in power and they knew parliamentary procedure and they knew all the things. It was good when Gianaris became part of the fray because, like, as a lawyer and a Harvard educated lawyer and someone who's written stuff on constitutional law, he was like an additional resource. And like, there have been times where like he will take out the books and like you are like researching and he is researching with you. So he did a lot of stuff from like the floor is pretty scripted, but he was really good at like being on his feet and when things happen, like being able to respond without a script. Because sometimes like shit would happen that would never happen before, and staff would be like, And he was like really quick at like ba 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 ba. The floor with him was great. We ate a lot of candy sometimes. We gossiped about a lot of people. I mean, Gianaris and I are particularly very close because we spent like a decade on the floor together. Every single day, me and him were on the floor. I assisted him in picking his wife's engagement ring. So it's like when you're on the floor with someone, you become extremely close because when you're sitting there and they're talking about resolution of like some firefighter in Lake Tagahago or whatever, upstate, like sometimes you're not listening. So it's just like he's just good to like, always on current events and he keeps you hip.
I want to talk about the political side of things. And I actually had an interaction with him in that capacity because in 2014, 2015, I was working for Assembly member Angela Santa Barbara, who they were trying to get to run for
Or
the George
CC Catch.
Amador seat in
Well, CC
2016.
Catch.
Well, Katchik had it in 2012,
Well,
lost it
okay,
in
that was
2014.
14, and
Right.
then
So they were
he
trying to get Santa Barbara to run, and I sat in a meeting with Santa Barbara, Gianaris, and I think Loren, and they went through a whole PowerPoint presentation. And so he was clearly involved in the recruitment of candidates. And that's one of the things that I've heard has been responsible for a lot of current members feeling some sort of allegiance to him to some degree because he might have fostered their run, like you talked about in 2018. But can you talk a little bit more about what that political side of things looked like? Was it just about working with Parkside on strategy? Was it about picking candidates? I mean, what did you see or hear about his political side of things?
it was everything from like beginning to end. It's like, I mean, he didn't pick candidates. Obviously,
Encouraged.
candidates had interest in running. I think he was able to predict who would be successful better than the average person. He worked alongside with Parkside on the political side, and they helped, they ran campaigns. Them, along with others, very smart, people who I won't go into, they ran campaigns from the strategy. Some people like moved to different counties to like help, the Democrats win. And then after we had, usually on election day, there's usually some type of recount. Like for years, there were recounts, like issues with
Sure.
ballots that you'd have to do with. He basically led alongside with whatever councils we had. He led like the ballot counts and stuff like that. Like he was very involved from start to finish. He had all the spreadsheets. He knew how many ballots were missing, how many absentees, what races, where impounds were being ordered. Like he was very involved. And the good thing about it is like he also kept though he was like so involved in it, his line of communication with the leader was just like they always communicated. Like she always knew what was going on. Where I think in previous years, I remember in like 9 and 10, there was like a secrecy,
Oh
weirdness. Like,
yeah. I mean, all of those people in the Senate Dem leadership in 9 and 10 all
yeah,
wanted their little fiefdoms, all were power hungry
exactly. Like
madmen.
Jeff Klein had his people,
Yeah.
John Sampson had his people, Malcolm had his
Hmm.
people. When Gianaris became DSCC chair, DSCC was in $5 million in debt because everybody had their pet attorneys that they were paying. And I'm not going to say the names of the attorneys, but these people were charging an arm and a leg for things that like it was not necessary. And when Gianaris came through, it was like a red button. He was like, get out. Like he clamped down spending. He was extremely frugal and he helped us get it. It maybe took a little longer than we expected because of the complications with the IDC, but there were different times when we should have numerically been in the majority, but we weren't because of other people.
Right. So moving forward, do you think that the role should be split up in terms of campaign and government, or do you think there's a person who makes sense for filling both sides of that role?
This is Shontell's opinion,
Hmm.
to be very clear. I think it's a lot for one person. When Gianaris did both at the time, he wasn't married, he didn't have a kid, he didn't have a family. I do think as you get older in certain things, especially with like with these, you gotta travel around the state, meet these people, do all this stuff. It's a lot and it's very time consuming. Um, I think as we see in the assembly and we see in other legislatures, like it's a separated position. Deputy leader, because deputy leader in the majority is an undertaking in itself. And then I think there should be separate DSCC chair in operation. I don't know what they're going to do. I haven't spoken to the leader. I don't think she cares about my opinion, but we'll see.
So I want to throw some names at you then. Um,
Oh, why are you doing this to me? Why are
Sticking with
you doing
the
this to
idea that
me?
you want an attorney,
Why are you
what
doing
do you
this
think
to
of
me?
Shelley Mayer doing the government side of things as deputy majority leader? I mean, she's got experience as counsel already. Could you see
Shelley
that?
Mirror hired me. Big ups to Shelley Mirror. She saw greatness very early on.
Sure.
How about we do this? How about we do the different paths the leaders can go?
Uh-huh,
Because
sure.
I don't want to get into like all of that.
I love
So
it.
some people say like she can do the bifurcated, which I just think it's different. Like the two, like she separates deputy leader and DSCC chair. I just think
Mhm.
it's too difficult to do it as one. There could be one person that does both. I just think that's like really, really, really hard,
Also, if you
especially.
split it up, though, you get a chance to hand out toys to multiple people and keep multiple people happy.
And if anybody knows the leader loves to make sure things make sense.
You get a committee. You get a committee.
This is like she likes to make sure do I have women? Check. Do I have brown people? Check. Do I have white people? Check. Do I have men? Check. Do I have upstate? Do I have downstate? So one could say one route she could do is separate it, and that way, I hope whoever becomes if she does the separation, I hope my hope for anyone who takes over DSCC is there is some period of overlap with Gianaris and the DSCC, the incoming DSCC person, because I do think he's done it for so long and he's done it a lot by himself. People don't know the different, like, there's so much from fundraising, from the campaigns, just even the legal standpoint. Like, there's just so many different parts of DSCC. So I do think it would be wise to have a co-person or an appointed person to help him. Maybe they don't make that public, maybe they keep that private, but I do think it's important for there to be some overlap. Then she could do the route where she has someone that does both. I just think, I was looking through the electeds, like who's here, like, because a lot has changed since I've left. I don't know. I don't know. I think it would just be harder. Then she could put like a filler role and she can make someone be a filler deputy. Maybe she doesn't want to like tip the apple cart and she doesn't want to select a deputy who people think will be the presumed
Sure.
next leader or something. She doesn't want to tip the apple cart. Maybe she'll just put a filler person in.
How about Jose Serrano as your
You're
filler
like,
person?
I'm not doing that, but maybe I'm just not doing that. Um,
Does
but
that
yeah.
seem crazy to you?
Maybe she'll do a filler person. Maybe she'll do it based on seniority and she'll find out who's the next senior person. Like there's different options and different,
Welcome Toby Ann Stavisky to
there's,
Deputy Majority Leader.
there's many different options. Or she could just do a like, I'll
Could you
do what
imagine
I
Kevin
want.
Parker as the Senate floor leader? Sorry, I'll need a second. Oh, him and Mario Matera going at it on the floor. That would be some chill, relaxed days. I'll pivot then.
I don't
Political
understand
side of things.
why do you do this?
Well, see, you don't have to say anything. I just said it.
In these uncomfortable positions, I'm just sitting here staring at you.
That's fine. Political side of things.
Okay.
When I think of the political nerds in the Senate, after Gianaris, I think 1A is Jim Skoufis. The guy already ran
James Skoufis.
James Skoufis. Yes, I always forget to call him that.
James Skoufis.
That already was interested in running DNC and is clearly involved in Orange County politics. We saw what he did with their county legislature. I think he would love to have access to DSCC.
He would. Um, he would.
You give him a task. You keep him busy.
You can never keep James Scoofus. This is a man that, for some reason, has a lot of ideas and a lot of time. So you can never keep him busy. Yeah, that could be. I've heard tons of names. I've heard Scoofus is a name I've heard this week, and I've heard some other names.
What other names?
I don't put their business out. Why don't you throw some names out and then I'll say if I've heard that name or
Well,
not.
for floor leader, another name I would think about is Gianardis, who doesn't necessarily have a committee that he needs. He's an attorney, so I could see him maybe
Does he
being
do floor stuff now?
not a ton, but I don't think there's been any
Does he
call for it.
preside? Does he preside?
Almost never. But
Yeah,
like,
like, you have to have some understanding of floor. Maybe it is a good artist. I just think you would have to know floor. Like I would think anyone when they used to have working rules back in the day.
used to.
Yeah, used to. I don't know what they do now. I'm not a part of that
I
group.
can confirm that they have not only working rules, but they have all sorts of other informal committees.
Whatever you want to say, good for you.
There we go.
I ain't saying
New
nothing.
York Focus, you heard it here first.
Yeah, okay. So I would assume whoever's the next deputy leader slash floor leader would be someone with experience with the floor. Like you cannot throw away the importance of knowing parliamentary procedure and operations of the floor. And this the bill operation. You'd be surprised how many people don't know like bill
Hmm.
operations and like the difference between aging and reading and like there's a lot of technical things that you have to know because if you don't know the difference between aging and reading and you're trying to what day can we introduce this horrible bill to blow shit up and like it's like you got to know these things if they get up and the lieutenant because sometimes we have the lieutenant governor and the lieutenant governor whoever the lieutenant governor they don't know anything about floor procedure and they're all messing up you need someone to keep the ship on track so I would say it'd be like a Shelley Mayer, Jamal Bailey, Prasad, And I think Cooney sometimes presides. Those are the people who I would be like, I wonder if they're interested in what they're thinking about. Boom.
Well, do you think then if you are deputy majority leader, that means you're going to have to walk away from whatever committees you've got? Because I
You
think
absolutely
that's what I
do.
mean. So
You
transportation is
absolutely.
obviously a big deal for Cooney
Education is a big deal.
and for mayor.
Insurance is a big
And
deal.
yeah,
And
so
social
that's
services is a kind of big deal, but
no, it's
not
not.
big. Oh, I was trying to be polite.
It's not.
It deals with SNAP benefits, and you know what? It's an important committee in these times.
Although standalone bills, meaningful ones, don't typically go through that committee.
Anyways, so yeah, and that's another thing. Like electeds have to figure out, do they want to give up committees? Because you're on no committees. And there's a lot of annoying stuff that people don't want to do when you're deputy. When you're deputy and you're trying to figure out budget, you're sitting in that chair. When you go into like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and people want to go to sleep, you're sitting in that chair. There's a lot of extra work as deputy
Is there cat
before.
wrangling?
Not cat wrangling, that's more what the staff and the
Okay.
sergeants do, but like budget time, it's a lot of work, you know? It's debriefing sometimes after certain meetings with people. It's weekends where you're going over like budget, like right now, I'm assuming they're done briefing on the budget and they're just people meeting to discuss what should be put in in both houses. And after people discuss and what they say, what they want, leadership has to go through. Like a one house resolution is put together, leadership has to go through that. And like that's hours. That is like, imagine like 10 hours on a weekend or 12, like it's a full-time job of being on the phone and going through. When you're deputy leader and you can't get a hold of the leader, I have called Gianaris 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and he's like, "Hello, yeah, 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 yeah," like over provisions in the budget. So there's a lot of annoying things in being deputy. Obviously, people like the perks and you know, oh, hello, deputy leader, but it's an annoying job. And you're never the queen. It's a great job with perks, but you're never like the decision maker. And some people like I think whoever the leader picks, it's going to be important for her to feel comfortable that they're okay not being the final say and the final decision maker. Because there were a lot of tense points where Gianaris disagreed with the leader, but he still did what he had to do as deputy and, like, fulfilled her wishes.
Mentioned this name only once, Jamal Bailey, and there's been reporting about him as sort of the heir apparent. Do you think that idea is going to make the leader more or less inclined to put him in this role? Because then that only further cements that narrative that people are, talking about outside of the Senate.
I think the leader is going to keep everything close to the chest. Like she's going to keep it close to the chest. And I think there are different options and different ways she can go. I think it's truly up to her, but it's going to be based on her comfortability. Whoever's the number two person, she has to feel comfortable and members have to like.
I want to return to Senator Gianaris and this decision to leave. I'm curious if it surprised you at all, or whether you look at the landscape. You're getting a smirk, which suggests to me that maybe you saw it coming. But what was your reaction to this news? Was it a surprise?
Yeah, it was a surprise for me, just like it was a surprise for everybody.
And what do you think was behind this? Obviously, there's the public statements about the demands of family, a young father,
Clearly, you haven't seen his adorable 2-year-old.
not in
And
person.
he is, yeah. I mean, look, I think the Gianaris of a decade ago is a different person than today. Like he has a family. Like he's an older man with a family. So, people would be like, "Oh, that's crazy to give up, power for your family." But like government is not the way it used to be back in the day. So back in the day, like, some please listeners don't get offended. Some white man decided he wanted to run for office. He got elected and the 100 and whatever he made between salary and Lulu's, because remember back in the day they used to get Lulu's.
Yep,
And
79.5 plus Lulu's.
yeah, so like they were over six figures. That was enough to like keep a family. And you have to remember, they also had their outside income and their outside jobs, many of the white men, and they were able to live their life comfortably with the prices that's going on here for rent, mortgages, interest rates, everything. This government salary is not doing it. And it really is not doing it. A lot of members are smiling in your face, but like it's a strain. And then to come back, the back and forth, plus you have a young kid, you're newly married to a smoking hot chick. I love his wife. She is smoking hot. Like you want to live your life, he has two daughters, he's a family man. So though people think it's crazy, and you have to remember this man is Harvard educated. He can get a job anywhere. One of the smartest people I know. He can get a job anywhere. So there comes a point when you're in government where you're like, can I get better than this? And I think for him it was like, yeah, maybe I can be the leader, probably can be the leader in time, but I don't know when that time is.
Yeah. Well, that was what I was curious about and wanted to get your, I guess, therapist brain on. He's 55 years old now. There was that possibility, but not a guarantee of being the next Senate Majority Leader. There's always the possibility of waiting out Tish James to be Attorney General. And I wonder at some point you'd make that calculation. None of those are guarantees. And like you said, I could be making more money doing something else. I could spend more time with my family. I could be watching more Star Wars TV shows.
I don't think it's about guarantees about maybe I could be leader, maybe I could be AG. I think it's about work-life balance and what you want for your life.
Sure.
And I think at certain points, if I've been elected for 26 years and I have passed all the like life-changing legislation I was a part of, I'm cemented in history. What else am I going to achieve? Like at some point you gotta leave before the party ends. What frustrates people on the outside is politicians who don't know when to go. There's a quote when I was leaving the Senate. It was like, know when to leave. The relationship, the job, the party, like the friendship, like know when to leave. And when you leave, leave on the high note. And politics is tricky. One day you could be like top of the world, next day you could be like scumbag of the earth. Like, think of all the politicians we knew who were riding high. I think for him, it's a family choice, it's a lifestyle choice. I'm sure, like, he's been government for 25 years. I'm sure pension is kicking in eventually too. Like, why am I staying here, coming to Albany, leaving my adorable 2-year-old to who? Fight with who? To do what? Like, they've passed all the legislation. Like, they have passed all the like historic legislation. Like, what's left? What is there left to do? I'm asking you, what is left to do? Maybe New York for all, but besides that, what is truly like changing New Yorkers' life type legislation that they can do?
Well, it's not something that I even know if he's supportive of, but it's the New York Health Act.
But even if you pass that, even if they pass in the legislature, that doesn't guarantee it's law.
No, but I'm just saying that would be
Okay.
monumental, earth-shattering change in the lives of New Yorkers, for good or bad.
Right, because we've yet to see like where is it? Anyways, let me just mind my business. I'll talk about health, but
So thinking about this trip down memory lane, though, reminds me that there has been so much turnover in the Senate Democratic Conference since Andrea was elevated, as you pointed out, 14 years ago. Who does she turn to? Does she just get like a new generation of staff that becomes, like family? Not obviously replacing Shontell, but like,
I was about to say, baby,
right. I was curious.
I just want to, I no, 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 I just want to make sure there's only one.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Keep going.
I wonder who she turns to, and wonder if at some point she looks around and says, "Is this still a party I want to be at?" Because for some people, maybe the new people reinvigorate you and they excite you. But then I could also imagine you look around and say, "Boy, this is who I was in the trenches with when we were going up against Dean Skelos and Jeff Klein." And I look around and I don't have people to share those stories with anymore. And I wonder what that's like.
Everybody knows the leader is like crazily centered. So like it could be like a chaos storm around her and due to her daily practices, she's extremely centered, extremely measured, extremely balanced. I don't think change really impacts her.
Mm.
I think she'll be sad that her friend is leaving, but change doesn't rock her because she's so like grounded on the inside. It takes a lot to shake her. I have this conversation with her to this day, and I'm always like, "Do you really?" And she's like, "I love all my members." I'll be, and I'll like say names like, "You really love this person?" She's like, "Yeah, I love all my." I actually legitimately believe her when she says she likes all of her members. I think she'll continue the party for as long as she wants because she's the type of person where the outside doesn't bother her because it's all like within. So like you could change the players and the people. I want to repeat, she will be sad that her friend is leaving and it will be a personal loss. But in terms of her and her leadership, she's still going to lead. She's still going to stay for as long as she decides. And it's just it's just like, it's like a member loses, a new member comes in. And something Shelly Mayer told me is like in politics, everyone's replaceable. I think Gianaris is obviously a was a great deputy, was a great DLCC chair. But at the end of the day, he gonna leave. Somebody gonna come in, and they gonna be like, "Oh, remember Gianaris?" And
Right.
like, I thought when I left, it'd be like, "Oh, Eric Katz stepped in. Now Jonathan Lang's in," and like people just move on. Like they mourn for that little time period, but then they just move on.
I think that's a good note to end it on. I like that sentimentality, but also sort of a dispassionate observation.
I just tell you, one day Kevin Parker told me you could drop dead on the Senate floor and maybe they'll do a Senate resolution for you. And after he told me that one time, it makes you really think like we're all replaceable. So it's just like you can't be too attached. And that's one thing Andrea is not attached to anything. So she's fine. I'm so happy to give you my expertise. Can you just say one thing for your viewers?
Shontell was right about Adrian Adams.
Mike Murphy used to have this in his office. Shontell is always right.
Shontell is always right.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Well, we've been speaking with Shontell Plummer. She is a partner at Tusk Strategies, where she oversees the New York practice. Thank you, Shontell.
Pleasure. You want to talk about Senator Gianaris? You know who was a big fan of Senator Gianaris? Bitey Alexander Plummer, no longer Smith.